Star Trek The Next Generation on Blu-ray, Season 1. This is day 24 of 30 of my 30 days of Star Trek reviews. This episode is called Symbiosis, or The Drug One. Look at this cool shot of this Enterprise, of the Enterprise getting way too close to that star. And then, look at these sideburns. So these are the standard Star Trek sideburns, those pokey ones. But I always wonder about these people in Star Trek The Next Generation, like this guy, that's probably not in any other episodes, but he just happens to be in this one. Or maybe he is, and I just don't notice him. I wonder about the background extras that have their sideburns shaved in those little pointy things, just for like one day of filming. I guess it's not that big deal, because you can grow them back. But I've always wanted to have little pokey Star Trek sideburns, but I think on me it might just come off really creepy and weird. Check this out. I love when this show just adds more just like general Star Trek-y stuff in the background. Just helps it feel more authentic.
Engineering.
Look at this.
This is Lieutenant Commander Data.
A Vulcan.
Bring all systems online and direct
Neat.
full power to the shields.
You can tell she's a Vulcan because of the way she is. So this is kind of the drug dealing Star Trek episode where you've got these fancy, well-dressed people, and then you have very clearly some drug addicts you'll see in a second and know immediately. On two different planets, and these guys are keeping the other planet basically dependent on a drug. It's actually pretty unethical. But I saw this guy and I was like, okay, he's not from Riverdance, but where is he from? I was just looking at him like, I know this guy. So look at that guy, and then
We did everything we could. If you had
look at
come
this
instead
other
of
little
sending your
guy.
cargo,
Look at him right there.
you all would have made it.
Cargo.
Yeah,
Where
definitely
is it?
no
You did save it, didn't you?
no addiction going on
Yes,
here.
we did. It's in one of our cargo holds.
Okay, so that first guy I showed, the Riverdance guy, he is one of Khan's lackeys in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And this young lad right here plays Kirk's son in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And so you got two guys from Star Trek II in here playing totally different roles. But no one will recognize them because the one guy's in sparkly clothes and this guy has a blob of putty on his forehead. So both parties think that the drugs are theirs. And when they start fighting each other, their hands are like electrical, so they can grab onto people and electrocute them. But here's a little shot of them electrocuting each other over the drugs, and then also a top-notch Tasha Yar line. Here we go.
Behave yourselves, gentlemen.
Oh man, only one more episode to go for her. It's too sad. She's awesome. All right, now I love me some rolling shots down the hallways with people talking. Honestly, I do. They look great. But this particular one, and you probably aren't going to be able to hear it, but I swear you can hear the like little camera cart just like rattling and grating, and let's see if you can hear it here.
I had never seen humanoids with that power.
Guys are cruising down the hallway.
Wonder how it evolved.
I wonder if
Listen
the
to that.
strong magnetic field of their sun might have something to do with it.
Could be.
You see
Wonder how much
it's
power
like
our
jiggling
guest
up
can produce.
above.
Or if they need to recharge.
It's an interesting ability. The question is, how do I...
Anyway, I can't just keep playing it, but you can just hear it's like it's like, for whatever reason, there's lots of other shots like this in the series, but in this one in particular, it picked up a lot of the, I guess, just like the little tiny wheels of the camera pushing cart. I was pretty surprised at that. So here we find the shocking truth about the life-saving medicine from Beverly with a dramatic crescendo following.
Dejan and Romus are feeling fine. In fact, too fine. Felician's a narcotic.
Then to Jean and Romus and everyone on their world.
He's a drug addict.
So there's a lot of really interesting talk back and forth between Beverly and Picard. Oh, that sounds good together. Beverly, Picard. Anyway, a lot of talk back and forth about the Prime Directive in this episode. And Picard is leaning really strong one way and she's kind of the other way. So they're actually really butting heads over the Prime Directive. And the end of the episode is very interesting because it's kind of a compromise between the two. But she's getting pretty upset, and I like watching her voice her opinion.
I can synthesize a non-addictive substitute which will ease their withdrawal symptoms.
No.
So Picard's
can't
holding
do
his
that.
ground pretty firmly,
You can't let them have the Felicium.
frustrating her.
Why? Because it offends against our sensibilities? It is not our mission to impose Federation or Earth values on any others in the galaxy.
Here's Picard being self-righteous about being self-righteous.
Well, in this case, Captain, I disagree. 100%.
Captain, I'm receiving.
So, like, they're arguing about this, but it seems like he's still trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do, but he knows for sure he's holding firm to not interfering with their society. And then she's trying to go the opposite way of really interfering, but to alleviate suffering, because that's what Beverly does. Okay, possibly the best part of the whole episode. It's the full-on dare moment from 90s elementary schools teaching against drugs. But they go full-on like a lesson to Wesley about drug addiction. And it's actually really great and sound knowledge. I don't think I can show the whole thing, even though I want to, but we'll show a little bit of it.
What I can't understand is why anyone would voluntarily become dependent on a chemical.
Voluntary addiction to drugs is a recurrent theme in many cultures.
Wesley, no one wants to become dependent. That happens
There you go.
later.
Tasha
But it
Yar
does
coming in
happen.
with her
So
rough
why do people
background,
start?
helping people
On my
out.
home planet, there was so much poverty and violence that for some, the only escape is through drugs.
How can a chemical substance provide an escape?
He's asking all the
Doesn't.
perfect questions.
But it makes you think it does.
She's answering
You
it,
have to understand,
just like the school teacher.
drugs can make you feel good.
Anyway, this is an awesome conversation, and I think he's asking the perfect level of questions for a younger person, and then Tasha Yar and Data are answering them at the perfect level. So this is just like elementary, junior high level of don't do drugs, and it's awesome. Like some of the didacticism, some of the didactic parts in Star Trek can be kind of on the nose and frustrating, but honestly, this one's good because drugs are kind of done away with at this point. And so Wesley is genuinely like in story, in universe wondering. And then the show is like, okay, let's be preachy to our audience, but in a very natural way, explaining it to someone who really wouldn't know. So it's a funny little anti-drug moment, but it actually totally makes sense in the episode, in universe. So anyway, don't do drugs. All right, a little bit more on that same thought. So earlier in the episode, The Naked Now, there was a similar lesson about alcohol and how it lowers your inhibitions and how that can be a problem. So good job, Star Trek. Okay, I guess the producers were like, you know what, Jonathan Frakes? That's Riker. You did so good in the last episode of acting frozen inside of that alien force field. We want you to do that again in this episode. Look at him. Look, he's all locked up.
Person dies.
Anyway, these people are getting desperate for the drugs. Drugs make you do bad stuff. But just watching Riker be frozen like that again, it's like, man, he was just doing that in the last episode. So good job, I guess. Wonder how many more times he's going to do that. All right, here's our eternal sunshine of the spotless mind moment. So he's falling out of being electrocuted or whatever. And the thing that actually stood out to me the very, very most is you get a shot right here that you don't normally see. The top of his head. Top of Jonathan Frakes' head. And you can see in like interviews, his hair's pretty thin. And then in the shows, it seems like they darken it up to make it thicker, or they comb it over, or they add texture or something. But this is actually a rare shot of the top of his head. And I don't know if you can see it. It's a lot easier to see it like in motion while you're watching it in real life. But you can see the top of his head. Like it's actually really, really, really thin right there. And I was like, oh, even back in 88, his hair was really thin. So I was surprised to see that because I thought that was more of a later thing. But I guess they kind of hide it throughout the show because you don't normally see angles like that. So I saw it and I was like, hey, I can relate to that. I'm like Riker. So we've got Picard and Beverly in the turbo lift and talking about the Prime Directive. So she's still upset that once the drugs run out, the the people are going to suffer. And she's like, I could have helped them. And then Picard does the old high school guy leaning on the locker talking to her and gives her a Prime Directive lesson. It's actually pretty interesting. She's still a little weirdly resistant to it, but again, it's her nature to alleviate suffering.
Hold.
Oh, stop in the elevator. What's going to happen?
Beverly, the Prime Directive is not just a set of rules. It is a philosophy, and a very correct one. History has proved again and again that whenever mankind interferes with a less developed civilization, no matter how well-intentioned that interference may be, the results are invariably disastrous.
So she, I can't just keep showing that clip, but she's still a little bit upset, but it's nice to again take a deeper dive into the Prime Directive and that sometimes people need to suffer in order to learn and grow from it, I guess, and that they can't just go around babying everyone in the galaxy. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe don't baby all the other planets in your galaxy. I wonder if there's any parallels to modern times with that. Okay, this is kind of a fun ending to this episode. One, I think Beverly's looking at the camera right as the doors open. But look what Picard says. I don't think he does this very often.
Still aboard to take us out of orbit.
Destination, sir.
I don't care. Let's just get some distance between us and this system.
Aye, sir.
And everyone looks around at each other like,
970,
oh,
Mark
wow.
318, speed, warp.
Anyway, so this is a good moral lesson episode. Not a great episode, but it felt very Star Trek-y. And second to last Tasha Yar episode. So yeah, in conclusion, it's a good preachy anti-drug one that's a little cheesy and on the nose, has some fun cameos from Wrath of Khan, and some good Prime Directive discussion. So just great typical Star Trek episode. So anyway, this has been your day 24 of 30 of my 30 days of Star Trek reviews. So I decided that for the rest of these 30 days, I'm going to finish season 1 of The Next Generation, and then I'm going to review Space Seed from the original series, and then I'm going to review The Wrath of Khan on 4K Blu-ray as my 30th movie. So, and then I'll get to 3, 4, 5, and 6, those 4K movies of Star Trek, periodically over the next little bit. So we'll get all of them in there, but that's my plan coming up. So thank you for sticking with me. I'd love to hear what you think of this. Any positive or negative criticism, always enjoy it. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.